Hello everyone and welcome to the RateWrestle channel. So this is my first video, so I'll give you a bit of in-depth information about what I actually do, and then we'll get onto the actual main subject, which is my match ratings for the latest Stardom show, Cinderella's journey in Nagaoka. So I started watching wrestling in 1997, like one of my first memories was the whole angle with Austin and Rikishi. I don't think that was in 1997, but that's the first one I remember. But my brothers have always brought it up that I used to watch it from that point. I've been watching it basically religiously since that point. Mainly WWE, obviously there was a bit of WCW at the start. I didn't really get into independent shows until 2015 when I went to my first Kamikaze show. That show was, I can't remember what it was called, I think it was called something kind of like Too Cool. And obviously it was headlined by Brian Christopher and Scotty 2 Hotly versus, I believe it was Ryan Small and Damien Dunn, and that really got me hooked into the independent scene. Like, it was mainly the UK scene. I was watching like Progress, Revolution Pro, Southside, Fight Club. I was going to more shows and shows. Then I started getting into a bit more of like the American stuff, like GCW basically. But then in May 2019, I think, I decided to watch the old WWE pay-per-views from the start on the network. And then suddenly I just decided, you know what, it'd be fun just to rate these, just for my own amusement. And then I started rating every match that I watched. And I kept note of it on Twitter. And then I started making like an Excel spreadsheet of stats and stuff like that. And it's just something, it's more of a hobby for myself. Then I made my own website, which is called www.ratewrestle.co.uk, and that's basically where I just store all my stats. Like, people can check them out if they want. Everyone has their own opinions on wrestling matches. Like, I don't think it's gospel what I say in ratings. Like, I might enjoy a match, you might not enjoy a match. It's the way it is. I like to discuss wrestling and see what people think of matches, and which is why I've started thinking I'll do the YouTube videos to see in the comments of what people actually thought of an event or stuff like that. Like, for example, I do rate stuff on Cage Match as well, just to kind of get people's opinions, and I think it'd just be a cool place to interact, and that's why I want to bring forward my channel. I also do other things on the websites, like I have end of the year rewards, which run between May to April each year. Which are rated on Male Wrestler of the Year, Female Wrestler of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, Company of the Year, Match of the Year, Event of the Year, etc. like that. I also do something at the end of the year, which is like an overall rankings, so it's based upon what I've watched over the years, and who I think is the best wrestler, best female wrestler, etc. like I just said with the actual year rankings, but these can include, like, this year winner was Mitsuharu Misawa. But this can change each year, so at the end of the year because obviously I'll be watching a lot more older matches as well, so I think it's a great place to kind of get stats for it. I create pages for specific wrestlers, tag teams, and just companies in general, just to keep hold of my stats. Basically, I'm just really stats driven. And I also, every 6 months or so, I've got rankings that are based on like most matches, most championship matches, most losses, most 4-star matches, 5-star matches. I just think it's a fun thing, which I like to interact with people. But yeah, who knows, this might completely flop anyway. People might hate that I rate rap matches, but as I said, it's just an opinion. Like, if you think a match is good and I don't, it's just the way it is. Like, we all enjoy what we want, and that's the way it goes. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go straight into the Stardom event, which I watched this morning. I'll give you my match ratings and what I thought of the matches. And then I'd like to see if your comments at the bottom to see what you thought of each match as well. So the first match on the show was Hanan versus Momo Kahogo. It's basically their Stardom's version of, like, you know, like the Young Lions match. It has the same kind of feel of that. It was a good match. It just didn't really it didn't have enough time to build. It's just a quick-paced match. They try and fit too much in within the few minutes. I gave it a 2.25 stars, it's just below average for my ratings. Like, it was fine. I just feel like they needed more time to get the story across. Like, I'm a really big fan of Hanan. I've not seen much of Mogo Kahogo. That me butchering a name, I do apologise. It's just, the match, as I said, it was just, there was a lot going on for such a short amount of time. Like, there was there were certain kickouts where, you know, when they're doing the last gaff kickouts and it's the weakest kickout ever, but the match has only been going on for a few minutes. Like, I think the match only lasted 5 minutes, but they made it feel like a 30-minute classic how they were kicking out, and I feel that what is the only thing that really let it down. But yeah, I gave it a 2.25 star match. It was below average, and I understand what it is. The next match on the card was Queen's Quest, represented by Lady C and Utami Hayashishita, which I think I've butchered that, but there you go, versus Oedo Otai, which they represented Momo Watanabe and Ryoka. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. It was just a decent tag team match, like your run-of-the-mill Joshi tag team match. Hayashita always looks great. Momo Watanabe is looking good at the moment. I'm actually a big fan of Ryoka. Like, not many people are, but I think she is really good. You had some good offense. Like the usual, which I love about Stardom matches, is you know, when someone gets knocked off the rope and they just disappear, and you're wondering what's happening. But what they do in Joshi matches is, if like there's a near fall in the ring, you can see the other wrestlers holding onto the person on the outside, which I think really helps like the aesthetic of the match. But yeah, overall it was decent enough. It was just an average Joshi tag team match, which I enjoyed. Also, I was a fan of the ending. It was a great double team move, which I can't remember the move where they get their head between the legs and slammed down, and then Ryoka did the splash, just the frog splash at the end, just to get the win. Which I'm a big fan of that, because as I said, I'm a big fan of Ryoka, so I think it progresses her a bit more. The next matchup was Mayu Iwatani and Tam Nakano, who faced another version of Oedo Otai, which was represented by Fukuden Death and Saki Kashiyama. The heel team of Oedo Otai was on top a lot of the first bits of the match until you got the usual Fukugen Death dance, which kind of caused Mayu Iwatani to have a comeback. And then it just became very back and forth. Each team getting their own double team offense on there, a lot of comebacks, and then just a lot of near falls, which was very good. I really enjoyed the ending, and I would say I gave this around about 2.75 out of 5 star rating. Now to one of my favourite matches on the card. It was Donna Del Mundo versus Donna Del Mundo. So you had the team of Julia, Mirai and Thekla, I think that's how it's pronounced, versus Himeka, Maika and Shuri. This was just mainly about Julia versus Shuri, like it's just the intense rivalry in between the factions. There was some great offense. Shuri always looks good in the ring, and everyone just looks strong, which I think is great in these kind of matches. And I'm a big fan like of the draws in Stardom, like they're battering the hell out of each other for a whole match, just going at it. Some great offense throughout, as I said. Like, as usual, you had the near falls and the submissions from Shuri and just like the brutal kicks. Like, I'm a big fan of her work, and she proved it here again. She is in a lot of draws, but they're always hard working draws. And the rating I gave for this match was 4 out of 5 stars. The next match-up was the Team Stars, Hazuki and Koguma, who are the champions, versus Cosmic Angels, Mina Shirawaka and Unagi Sayaka. This was just your typical run-of-the-mill Stardom tag team match. Some great offense from both teams, some good double team moves going on throughout. There was a lot of near falls that did happen until eventually, obviously, the Stars team took over and got the win. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. The penultimate match of the night saw Starlight Kid, the champion, versus AZM. This match was great. Like, I was a big fan of this match, but I've noticed that a lot of people like this a lot more than I did. I just feel like with these kind of contests, it's just rushed. There's a lot going on in a quick process. There's not a lot of selling. It's just bam, 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 continuously. Like, there was continuous pinfalls, like rolling around. Like, I'll be honest, the first sequence in the match I really loved. And the submissions that AZM got on Starlight Kid were brutal, especially the one at the finish. It just looked really good, and I was a big fan of the ending of the match. But overall, I didn't like it as much as some people did. Like, I did. When I give you my rating, you can tell I still enjoyed it. It was just not as highly rated as I can see on Cage Match. It was like, people would say it's about 9.10 it is at the moment, which in my kind of rating system, that's near about a 4.5, 4.75 out of 10 out of 5, sorry, whereas I gave the match a 3.5 out of 5. And then finally, the main event, which was actually my match of the night, which I always think a main event should be the match of the night. You've waited around to get to the main event, and hopefully it is the best match. It saw Saya Kamatiani, which I think I've butchered that as well, versus Natsupoi. I'm a big fan of Natsupoi. Every match you see her and she gives her best, and it's always great to see. Like, it was quick at the start, there was some great offense, like the spots where they were one-upping each other were perfect. Like, they both had their times on top. There was at some points when Natsupoi, I genuinely thought she was going to pull it out of the bag. There was the usual near falls, but what the difference between this match and the last match I spoke about, there was a lot of selling, and like you had minutes where people were down a lot, and you were getting the crowd involved. The ending, I really enjoyed the ending, and it was a decent, a very good contest. Like, I think it was my match of the night, which I've rated that 4.25 stars out of 5. Now to the overall rating of the event. So there were 7 matches on the card. Overall, if all the ratings you add up together, it's 22.25. So that gives an average rating of a 3.17 out of 5, which is a good rating, because obviously if you look at it, a lot of the openers in cards, you don't expect them to be that good. So to pull it above a 3, which I think is a great match, is a great essence. So overall, Stardom, Cinderella, and Nagaoka I thought was a great event. There was some great tag team matches. Like I said, Saya Kamatiani versus Natsupoi was my match of the night. The Donna Del Mundo rivalry in that match was great as well, which I can see some people didn't give that as high rating as I do, but I think I've got like a soft spot for Shuri and Gyula. Always think their matches are great. The Starlight vs ACM, I did the opposite effect. I didn't think it was good as people thought it was, but I still thought it was a good contest. And then the first 3 matches were just very run-of-the-mill, but they set the mood for how good the event would be. And as I said, the Stars versus Cosmic Angel was just as a very run-of-the-mill as well. But that's the end of my match ratings for that. I would love to hear your comments of what you thought was good about the event, what you think about the matches, what you think you liked more than I should have. The opposite way round. If you think I've rated a match higher than it should be, tell me. Like, this is obviously just a forum. People's opinions are people's opinions, and I won't get offended by it. And what you think I should watch next. Like, I go by cage match, so I see what's been high rated, and I'll watch an event from that. But if anyone else, because sometimes a lot of people don't use cage match, so there is some events I'm just missing because people are not using it. So I'd love to hear your opinion. So thank you, and you have a nice rest of your night.